The date is October 16, 1946. You are standing in the gymnasium of Nuremberg prison. 10 men are about to hang. They are the architects of the Third Reich, generals, propagandists, and politicians. We are told this is the moment justice is served. We are told good has finally defeated evil. But if you look closely at the defendants, you'll notice who is missing. There are no bankers in the dock. There are no industrialists from Wall Street or the City of London. The men who dropped the bombs are there. But the men who paid for the planes, they are back in their offices in Manhattan and Basel, counting their profits. Here is a math problem that history books refuse to solve. In 1923, Germany was bankrupt. Their currency was being swept into gutters by street cleaners. The country was starving. Yet, just 6 years later, they built the most terrifying military machine the world had ever seen. How? You don't build a Luftwaffe with worthless paper marks. You need steel, rubber, oil, and high-tech chemicals. And you need foreign currency to buy them. Hitler didn't perform an economic miracle. He received a line of credit. Over the next 15 minutes, we are going to open the ledger that they tried to burn. We are going to trace the specific wire transfers from New York and London that fueled the rise of the Reich. This isn't a conspiracy theory. These are the bank records. Welcome to the business of war. If you think corporations have a moral compass, look at the numbers. While the world watched the rise of fascism with horror, high finance watched it with interest, literally. So, let's look at the first deposit. 1. The Great Bailout: How Wall Street Built the Factory. To understand the Nazis, you have to understand the Dawes Plan of 1924. History class calls it a humanitarian effort to help Germany pay its WI reparations. In reality, it was one of the largest transfers of capital in human history. American banks, led by J.P. Morgan, flooded Germany with loans. Between 1924 and 1931, Wall Street pumped roughly $33 billion in today's money into German industry. This money didn't go to bakeries or schools. It went to cartels. Specifically, it went to a company called IG Farben. You might not know the name, but you know their work. IG Farben was the chemical giant that produced the explosives for the Wehrmacht and, later, the gas for the concentration camps. In the late 20s, IG Farben wasn't treated like a monster, it was treated like a blue chip stock. American investment built their plants. Standard Oil, the Rockefeller Empire, even entered into a massive cartel agreement with them, sharing technology on how to make synthetic fuel from coal. Without that American technology and capital, the Luftwaffe literally could not have flown. The planes that bombed London were fueled by patents shared by New York. It was a business decision. The returns were high. The bonds paid well. Wall Street wasn't looking for a war, they were looking for a market. But in doing so, they handed a pyromaniac a flamethrower and claimed they were just selling hardware. 2. The City of London financing the bulwark. But surely, once Hitler actually took power in 1933, the money stopped. Wrong. It accelerated. Enter the City of London. In the 1930s, the governor of the Bank of England was a man named Montague Norman. He was a close personal friend of Hjalmar Schacht, Hitler's financial wizard. Norman and the British financial elite had a terrifying theory. The real enemy was Stalin and Soviet communism. They viewed Hitler as a bulwark, a rough but necessary security guard for Europe. So, they kept the credit lines open. When Schacht needed to ram Germany off the books, to avoid alarming the French, he created the Mefo bill, a shadow currency, who helped facilitate the international acceptance of German credit. The network in London. Even as German tanks were rolling into Austria, the Bank of England was facilitating the transfer of Czech gold to the Nazis. Let that sink in. The central bank of the nation that would fight alone against Hitler in 1940 spent the previous decade ensuring his checkbook didn't bounce. 3. The American laundromat, trading with the enemy. Now let's cross back across the Atlantic to the most damning piece of evidence. The date is 1942. The U.S. is at war. American soldiers are dying. You would assume all business with Germany has ceased. But on October 20, 1942, the U.S. government seized the assets of a bank at 120 Broadway in New York City. It was called the Union Banking Corporation. Why? Because the alien property custodian discovered the bank was effectively a money laundering front for Fritz Thyssen, the German steel magnate who financed Hitler's rise to power. This bank was moving Nazi capital into the U.S. to protect it, and moving American capital back to Germany to fund the steel mills. And who was on the board of directors? Prominent American businessmen. Names that would go on to shape the CIA and the U.S. Senate. We won't list the family trees here. You can Google Union Banking Corporation directors. But the fact remains 10 months after Pearl Harbor, a bank in Manhattan was legally seized for being a Nazi wallet. Business didn't stop when the shooting started. It just went underground. 4. The Club in Basel, the bank that kept working. If you want to see the true heart of darkness, you have to look at Switzerland. Specifically, the Bank for International Settlements, the BIST. This is the central bank of central banks. During the war, the BS declared itself neutral ground. It sounds like fiction, but it is historical fact. American bankers, British bankers, and Nazi bankers sat around the same table in Basel throughout the entire war. While their countrymen were slaughtering each other on the beaches of Normandy, these men were discussing interest payments on pre-war loans. They were colleagues, and the BIS performed a crucial service for the Reich. When the Nazis looted the gold of occupied Europe, from the vaults of Belgium, from the teeth of victims, they needed to wash it. You can't use stolen gold to buy tungsten from Portugal or steel from Sweden. You need Swiss francs. The BIS accepted the looted gold, recognized the Reich's claim to it, and converted it into usable currency. Without this mechanism, the Nazi war machine would have run out of foreign currency by 1944. The war might have ended a year earlier. Millions of lives could have been saved. But the bank stayed open. The ledger had to be balanced. Conclusion: the ledger of history. After the war, the files were closed. The Cold War was starting. The Allies needed West Germany to be a strong ally against the Soviets. They needed the bankers to rebuild Europe. So, the investigations were quietly dropped. Hjalmar Schacht, Hitler's banker, was acquitted at Nuremberg. He didn't hang. He went on to found a new bank in Düsseldorf. He died in his bed at age 93. The American directors of the Union Banking Corporation. They went on to become senators and power brokers. We tell this story not to say that America is bad or Britain is bad. We tell it to reveal the nature of capital. Money has no flag. It has no loyalty. It has no morality. It flows to yield. In the 1930s, the highest yield was in rearmament. The next time you hear about a geopolitical conflict, don't just look at the politicians shouting on TV. Look at the ticker tape, because while history is written by the victors, it is funded by the bankers. If you want to know how these same financial families restructured the entire global economy after 1945 to ensure they never lost control again, you need to watch our deep dive on the Bretton Woods Agreement. The game didn't stop. They just changed the rules. Subscribe for the truth. Class dismissed.